Alright guys, it's about 12:05 on Friday, December 14th, and we're starting lesson 63 today. We might do lesson 64. We're talking in lesson 63 about symbols of inclusion. And symbols of inclusion would include things like parentheses. Parentheses are symbols of inclusion, and of course they look, you know what parentheses look like. You don't need me to tell you that, but also we can have brackets. Brackets could be symbols of inclusion, and this is what a bracket would look like. We could have braces. Braces could be symbols of inclusion. There's an example of what braces can look like. So we could have a problem that might look like this. It could say 20 minus, and we put our brackets, 15 minus, and then parentheses, 5 plus 7, close parentheses, close bracket. And the way we would work this problem out is hopefully you would recognize that the first thing we do is we do everything that is in the parentheses, the innermost symbols of inclusion, are the parentheses. So you'd basically rewrite this 15 minus, and then you do your 5 plus 7, which is 12. We've done what's in the parentheses, so we lose the parentheses now, so we just have our brackets. And then it's going to be 20 minus, because we should have a minus there, and then 15 minus 12 is 3. So we lose our brackets, and then we do 20 minus 3 is 17. And that's how we derive our answer. That makes sense to everybody? Everybody okay with that? You do whatever's innermost, whatever's inside. Okay, so now in our book we have example 1, and it shows us 50 minus, then we have brackets, 20 plus parentheses, 10 minus 5, close parentheses, close bracket. First thing we do are the parentheses, would you agree? Okay, so I'm going to have 50 minus, my bracket, 20 plus, and then 10 minus 5 is 5, and then I have 50 minus 20 plus 5 is 25, and then 50 minus 25 is obviously 25. Are we okay with that? Yes. All right. Any questions about that at all? Tanisha? You do what's on the innermost. If there's something inside, you know, I don't think you'll ever see parentheses and then with brackets inside of them. I mean, I guess you may. I don't think that's normal, but you always do what's inside. If something is inside of something else, you do the innermost operation first when we're talking about the symbols. Okay. So we're going to do another one here. It might be a little more confusing. We're going to have 12 minus, then we have parentheses, 8 minus the absolute value of 4 minus 6 plus 2, and we close our parentheses. So the absolute value is a symbol of include. Delaney? Huh? Is what 2? The absolute value of 4 minus 6 is in fact 2. Okay, so that's what we would do first. We would have 12 minus, and then we're going to have 8 minus, and the absolute value of 4 minus 6. Well, first of all, it would be negative 2, right? But it's absolute value, which means how many points away from 0 is it on the number line? It's not minus 2 points away, it's 2 points away. It's 2 ticks away, right? So it's 8 minus 2 plus 2, close parentheses. So then now we just finish our problem, and we can take it left to right, or we could do our addition first and put our negative sign, our minus 8 over here last. But 8 minus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So we end up with 12 minus 8, and we all know that 12 minus 8 is in fact 4. and we would do that problem. Any questions on how we do that? So the moral of the story on this problem is that the absolute value symbols are symbols of inclusion. So we have to do that first before we can do the rest of the parentheses. Okay? So you treat the absolute value just the same way you would if it was a bracket or a brace. You would do what's inside of these parentheses first. Absolute value has to be done first. Remember, absolute value is always positive because it's asking the question, how far away is this number from 0 on a number line? That's all it's asking. And that's all you have to know. All right, any questions with that at all? All right, then we're going to be dealing with the division bar. We're going to have a problem that includes a division bar now. And in this situation, your book shows us 4 plus 5 times 6 minus 7, and that's going to be all divided by 10 minus, and then we have parentheses, 9 minus 8. All right, so you should remember, hopefully, that when we do this upper portion, listen, we always do the upper part first, and then we get our bottom part, then we do the division. Okay, so we always do the upper first, then the lower, and then we do our division. When we have this situation up here, ladies, where we have 4 plus 5 times 6 minus 7, what are we doing first here? Does anybody know? Tanisha? Yes, we're doing the multiplication first, right? So we're going to have here, this is going to wind up being, if I do my next step, how do I want to show this? Like this, it's going to be 4 plus 5 times 6 is 30 minus 7, and we're dividing that by, and then what do we do down here first? The parentheses, right? So we're going to have 10 minus, and then what's 9 minus 8? 9 minus 8 is 1. So our next step, let me just rewrite this. So our next step is going to be 4 plus 30, right, which is 34, minus 7, and 10 minus 1 is 9. My next step is 34 minus 7 is what? What's 34 minus 7? It's 27. And we have 9. And what's 27 over 9 equal? Okay, are we okay with that? Emma? For the what? What brackets? I'm lost. There's no brackets. To make these brackets? Huh. Oh, is there? I guess there can be. I don't know if I've ever seen them that way. Usually the brackets are on the outside and parentheses are on the inside. I'm trying to think of a time I've ever seen it differently, and I don't know that I don't know that I have. All right, so that's going to take us to our practice set, which is part of our homework for tonight. But before we go into the practice set, does anybody have any questions on any of those methods? Liz? Yeah, I mean, you could. You could do it. You could. You are doing the order of operation. The only thing that by now you should know the order of operation. Now we're just including the symbols of inclusion. We're working with the order of operation in conjunction with, or in addition to, the fact now that we have symbols of inclusion that we're adding to the mix. Before, when we did orders of operation, we didn't have parentheses and brackets and absolute value symbols. Now we have all that we're actually working in with the order of operation. So we're making it just a little bit more difficult now. It's not tremendous math, but there is an extra step that we have to consider when we're doing this. So is everybody okay with that? Are we good? All right. All right, so let's look at our practice set, and we see that the first thing we're going to have here what I want you to do is get out your homework sheet and try to do this problem right now. I'm going to put it up here on the board. It's going to be 100 minus 3. Then we have brackets 2 parentheses 6 minus 2 parentheses close bracket, and we want to do this problem. This is a practice set problem. Tanisha? Huh? You got the answer already? Wow. Is it in your book? Wow, good for you. Yeah, Liz? Your pencil's broken? Okay, you want to get a new pencil, or? I will do that. Okay, guys, for those of you that are a little baffled by this, I'm going to do it the long version way. Liz, you need a pencil, or are you just going to sharpen a new one, or you good? Okay. So I'm doing it the long version. I'm taking one step at a time. I know that when I look at this problem, my first step is to go to the innermost symbol, right? Which is going to be, I have to do this part of the problem first. So I have 100 minus 3, bracket 2. Now I'm getting rid of the parentheses as I'm doing this problem. 6 minus 2. Well, excuse me, I'm actually still going to have brackets here. I am still going to have a bracket because I have a parentheses rather, because I have a number in here without an order of operation, without a multiplication or division sign or something. So it's going to be 6 minus 2 is 4, and then I close my brackets. So now, what is my next step here going to be? I have to do what's inside the brackets, right? And inside the brackets, I have this multiplication problem I have to do. So now I'm going to have 100 minus 3, okay, and I have my bracket, and 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, are we okay with that, Julia? All right, and then my next step is to take 100 minus, and then 3 times 8 is 24, and then I finish by having 100 minus 24, which equals 76. Oh. Okay. All right, so very good, Tanisha, that you were able to do that so quickly. Very nice. Yep. You got the next one already too? And you already finished B? So what did you guys get for B? -2. -2 is correct. Does anybody want to see B on the board? Anybody need to see B? You're still writing? Yeah, they're flying. Yes. They're doing good. Huh? I will show B, yes. Okay, B, let me erase this here. B is 30 minus brackets 40 minus parentheses 10 minus 2, close parentheses, close bracket. All right, so what's the first thing I want to do here? I want to do this part of the problem right here, right? So I'm going to have 30 minus bracket 40 minus. Now, since I have a minus sign here, I don't keep my brackets now, right? 10 minus 2 is 8, or my parentheses rather, but I keep my bracket. Okay, my next step is I got to do the brackets, right? So I'm going to have 30 minus, and then 40 minus 8 gives me 32, right? And then for my final, I have 30 minus 32, which is going to be minus 2. You see how we did that? Okay. Everybody have any problems with that? We okay with that? We're good, right? Okay, let's do C. I'll do it over here, I guess. All right, C is 10 plus 9 times 8 minus 7 divided by 6 times 5 minus 4 minus 3 minus 2. Wow. Okay, no parentheses or anything. So now we're just going to do this problem. What is on this? Remember, we do the upper first. We can do either the upper or the lower first. It doesn't really matter, but we don't combine them until we have both top and bottom done all the way, right? So what is, if I do the top first, what's the very first thing in the top that I'm going to do, Chelsea? Okay, I'm going to do multiplication, which is going to give me 10 plus 9 times 8 is 72 minus 7. And on the bottom, what's the first thing I'm going to do here? 6 times 5, so I'm going to have 30 minus 4 minus 3 minus 2. Oh, it's a plus 2. 4 minus 3 plus 2. Hang on, that's plus 2. Okay. 4 minus 3 plus 2. It's a plus 2 up here also. All right, so in the upper portion, I'll draw my divisor line. What am I going to have up here? I just do the math right across. So 10 plus 72 is 82, right? Or, and if I don't want to do 82 minus 7, can I just say, can I say 10 plus a negative 7 or 10 minus 7? Can I do that? And say that it's going to give me 3, and then 3 plus 72 is 75. You can do it that way. If it confuses you, don't. Just go back and do it left to right. 10 plus 72 is 82, and that gives me 82 minus 7. And then when I have 30 minus 4 minus 3 minus 2, I can just go left to right. 30 minus 4 is 26, minus 3 is 23, right? Plus 2 is 25. Did I do my math right? Okay. Did I add it up wrong? Okay, what's 82 minus 7? So now we're going to have 82 minus 7 over 25. 82 minus 7 is 75 over 25, which equals what? 3. And that is our answer. Everybody see that? Okay. Yep, Emma? You have what? You have D already? Okay, well let me work it out here. What'd you get for an answer? What'd you get for an answer? Okay, who got 16? Who got 16? Who got 10? Okay, both answers are wrong actually. Both answers are wrong. Let's see why. Let's see. This is a tricky one. Okay, let me see if I can get it right. We have 12 plus 3 parentheses. What? Oh, I'm looking at E. No wonder why y'all got it wrong. Yeah, thank you. D is 10. D is 10. I'm looking at E. Okay. You want to see D? Okay. All right, D. Let me do D. Let me erase this here real quick. Okay, we have 1 plus 2, parentheses, 3 plus 4, closed, minus 5. And? Okay. All right, so obviously we know we do our what's in parentheses first, right? So I can convert this to 1 plus 2 parentheses 3 and 4 is 7. Why did I keep the parentheses there? Yeah, because there's nothing in between these two numbers, right? So that means I'm multiplying that. Very good. And then I have my division line. and then I'm just going to write this down, 10 minus 9, and then I have parentheses again, right? No multiplication, division, or anything here. So 8 minus 7 is 1. And so my next step is to take 1 plus 2 times 7, right? Would you agree I have to do this next? So or it would be 1 plus what? 7 times 2 is 14, right? Minus 5 over, and then we have to do, what do we do first? This here first, right? Multiply. So it's going to be 10 minus 9. My next step, 1 plus 4 is 15. 15 minus 5 over 10 minus 9, right? And this is going to be 10 over 1, right? Equals 10. Everybody get it? Makes sense? Okay. Hang on. Okay, Okay, the answer for E is 30. Do we need to see it? Okay. All right, we got 12 plus 3, parentheses, 8 minus absolute value of negative 2, close parentheses, and that's what we have to do. So how would we go about doing this? What's the first thing we want to do? Absolute value. Because it's inside the parentheses, we're going to have 12 plus 3, parentheses, 8 minus, and what's the absolute value of 2? 2. Negative 2 rather is 2, right? So does that look right so far? Yeah. Okay, so then we're going to do 12 plus 3, and then parentheses, what's 8 minus 2? 6. Okay, then we're going to have 12 plus, what's 3 times 6? Is 18. And that equals 30, right? So is that good, guys? Everybody okay with that? So you there? You with me? You never got math before and now you do, Anna? Wow. Really? Why? I wonder. Can't focus? Alright. Alright, well, let's get back on track here, guys. That is all of the practice set. We did all the practice set A through E. So, do I suggest you go home and do them again tonight to make sure you can do them correctly? Absolutely. Don't let this be the end of your homework. It's always easier in class when you're doing them together. If you can do them again tonight, and now that you know what the answers are, get the same answers, you're in great shape. That's perfect. Okay. I'm also going to take. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay. Let's go into lesson 64, and just work on lesson 64 a little bit, since my 7th grade class did lesson 64. I'm trying to keep you guys side by side. 6th grade class. I'm sorry. Forgive me, my goodness. Huh? No. Yeah. Both practice sets. Okay. So we're adding positive and negative numbers on the number line. We've done something similar to this, yes. But last time it was a little bit simple. Remember, last time we didn't have the two mathematical operations side in between the numbers. Now we do, and I said it was going to be a little more confusing later on. We're there. Now it's going to be a little more confusing. And I want to read this right from the book with you to make sure that there's no misunderstanding, no misrepresentation on my part. I don't want to say something that might be confusing. So we're going to kind of go right out of the book on this, because this can be confusing. We want to make sure we understand step by step along the way. Julia, do you have a book with you, by the way? Where's it at? Where's your book? Should be opened up so you can follow along, kid. All right. So now here's what we know. We know that when we add two negative numbers, the sum is a negative number. Would you agree with that? So if I have my number line here, and I'm at 0, and here's obviously -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and -6. What that statement is saying, when we add two negative numbers, the sum is negative. So if we take a -2 plus a -3, we get a -5. So we start out at -2, and then we're adding, so you think you want to add, you might want to go that way, but you're adding a -3. So we have to go this way 3 places. 1, 2, 3. And this becomes our new home, -5. Okay? The opposite is also true. This is my number line downhill. Number downhill line. Your book says when we add two positive numbers, the sum is a positive number. When we take a +1 plus a +2, it equals a +3, right? There's +1. We go positive 2 places. We add 2 more. We add a +2. It takes us to +3. We okay with that? Pretty simple, right? Wish it was all that easy, don't you? Yeah, but it won't be. All right. Now, very important that you read along with me when I read this to you out of your book. It's on page 454 in the box. Your book says we can summarize these observations referring to the ones above. So let's look at that for a moment. We can see that we have -3 in parentheses plus a +5 or a +5 in parentheses equals a +2. And we all can see how that makes sense because we have our -3. So we start at -3 on the number line. Are you with me? And then we have to add a +5. So we're going to the right. We're going to the right, the direction of the right on the number line, 5 places. And when we do that, we wind up on +2. Make sense? Okay, the next one, it shows us that we're on a +3 and we're adding a -5. We're adding a -5. Or you could say you're subtracting 5. Same thing, right? But we're adding a -5. So when we're adding, but it's a negative number, we're going to the left. Okay? Adding doesn't always mean going to the right. Adding means we're putting more of a number on the previous number. If that number is a negative number, it's going to take us to the left even though we're adding it. Okay? Addition is not a direction. Don't think of adding a number as a direction. Okay, what's the direction is the positive or negative. The adding is not a direction. So we're adding a -5. We're adding a negative, to the left 5. Remember, negative is direction. So when we take the -5 places to the 3 we already had that was positive, we're going to wind up at a -2. Do you understand that? Does that make sense? Does anybody have a problem with that? Okay. It is. It's going to get a little muddy here in a minute maybe, and maybe it won't. I mean, maybe, it'll just make sense to you. Hopefully it will. So now we have a +3, and we're adding to that a -3. Okay, so we're adding on top of the +3 a directional move to the left, to the negative of 3, right? Remember, the sign in front of the number, when we have two signs like that side by side, the addition sign is telling us that we're adding more of a number, but the next sign is going to tell us the direction that number is going to go. So we take a +3 and we're adding to it a -3. We're going to the left 3. It's going to take us back to 0. Make sense? Does everybody understand that? Does anybody need that explained? Okay. So now we're going to read this summary. It says, the sum of two numbers with the same sign has an absolute value equal to the sum of their absolute values. Its sign is the same as the sign of the numbers. Let's read the second one because that might not make a lot of sense. This might help clear that up. The sum of two numbers with opposite signs has an absolute value equal to the difference of their absolute values. Its sign is the same as the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. The sum of two opposites is 0. Does that make sense? Kind of? Okay. All right, so for example 1, the book wants us to find each sum, And what we have here is class out at 12:45 today, right? Okay. Pardon me? 12:45. Okay. Find each sum. So we're going to have let me erase this here. We're going to have in parentheses, minus 54 plus a minus 78. So what does that tell us? That tells us that on this number line, and it's all negative, right? So I don't need a lot of positives. So way down here, I'm at negative 54. And over here is 0. And here's plus 10, let's just say. Okay, so now I'm adding on to it a negative 78. So the negative tells me which direction am I going? To the left. So I'm going further negative, right? Correct, I should say. So when I take a negative 54 plus a negative 78, what am I going to wind up at when I get way down here? Am I going to be positive or negative? I'm going to be negative, and I add these two numbers together, negative 132, right? Huh? Yeah. And look at rule number 1. Rule number 1 explains that. It says the sum of two numbers with the same sign, and these both have the same sign, right, has an absolute value equal to the sum of their absolute values. Well, yeah. No, because it says its sign is the same as the sign of the numbers. And the sign of the numbers is negative. So the absolute value would be 132, but because both signs are the same rather, then the sign is the same as the sign of of both numbers. Okay? So if that was positive 54 and positive 78, which it doesn't give us an example like that, we would be up here at positive 132, and that would make sense because the absolute value of positive 78 and positive 54 is a positive 132, and it stays positive because we're supposed to keep it the same as both of the numbers when the signs are the same. So it would be a positive 132. Little confusing maybe. Does it make sense though? Okay, is anybody lost? Are we okay? Anybody a little bit confused? All right, we're doing good. Okay, so then we have our next one is going to be a plus 45, and we're adding to that a negative 67. So if we're doing a number line scenario, I'm going to be over here. There's my 0. There's plus 45, and let's say that's plus 15, that's plus 30, and here's plus 45. So I'm at plus 45 like the problem states I should be, right here, plus 45, but it wants me to add on top of that a negative 67. So which direction am I going if I'm adding a negative 67? I'm going to my left. I'm going negative, right? Correct? So when I figure out what my number is going to be, I'm going to have 67 minus 45, right? Because I'm going that direction. I started off with 67. I'm subtracting 45. I wind up with 22. So I'm going to be down here at 22. But is that 22 negative or positive? Negative. I'm going 67 places. So look at the first 45 places get me back to 0, right? So the next amount of places I have to go to get to 67 are all going to be in the negative direction. Now, let's see how rule number 2, so the answer is going to be negative 22. That's where I'm going to wind up, right? But let's read number 2 again. The sum of two numbers, and here's the sum of my two numbers. My sum of my two numbers is this sum right here, with opposite signs, has an absolute value equal to the difference of their absolute values. Its sign is the same as the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. Okay, this 67 is the greater sign, right? Remember, this was, we had a positive 45, and we had a positive 45. We had a negative 67. So when we subtract these numbers from each other and we get 22, it tells us we use a sign from the greater absolute value. And the greater one was 67, which had a negative sign, so it makes it negative. I mean, that's the mathematical reasoning behind it. Or you can just say to yourself, I'm at a positive 45, I have to go minus 67, so you know my answer is going to be minus when I'm done, right? Because 45 takes me back to 0, but I'm not at 67 yet, so I have to go 22 more places, which is going to be all negative. Does that make sense? Are we doing okay? Okay. And then lastly, and I don't even know if I really need to draw it out, but we're at a negative 92, and we're going to add to that a positive 92. So where am I at, ladies? I'm over here all the way down at negative 92, right? And I'm going to add to that a positive 92. So I'm going 92 in which direction? Where am I going to end up at? 0 right there. And according to the rule, well, I would use the, well, if it were 0, it's not going to matter because it averages out, but it would be the sign of the number with the largest absolute, or the sign of the number with the largest absolute value. But since they both happen to be the same, it's going to land me back on 0. So that rule doesn't apply. It just says number 3 applies here, where the sum of two opposites is 0. And that's what we have here. And that's the rule that applies. We have the sum of two opposites. We have an opposite of the negative 92 and the positive 92, and that rule 3 says our sum is going to be 0, and sure enough it is. So are we okay with that? Okay, we didn't obviously finish lesson 64. Pretty kind of done with it, but we have a couple more things to do. We'll do that on Monday. Any questions? All right, ladies. Practice set tonight only for lesson 63, written practice 1 through 30 all, okay? All right, have a good weekend. Huh?